start off more daily. Okay, so Tuesday, right? We were pretty confident that we would continue lower, right? Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. We were pretty confident that we'd continue lower, right? And that was due to pretty much due to the fact that we had created unwillingness, right? Based off a mitigation, which created a new lower low, which now essentially, created that bearish narrative. So my only issue now, right, is let's actually zoom in here. Right, this candle here. This is an extremely deep retracement. Right, I don't see probably playing off this wick here. Right, extremely deep retracement. This is extremely hard to play off of because it's quote unquote counter trend in comparison to what we're trading. Right, and this is actually where it tapped. The thing is though is like, right, we pretty much strike the open and then we strike the 50%. Right, we strike the 50%, right, then mitigate that, and that's essentially what created the bullish narrative to the upside, right? If you want to get super technical with it, right, we had the open, right, and as soon as, for example, we see the bullish break of structure here, right, you're automatically inclined to maybe potential seconds time frame turbulence point here. Right, ended up coming back, reacting, right? Keep in mind this is also during session, so it's super confusing, right? So then we essentially create a higher high, but keep in mind the leg is still pretty much fully bearish, right? So this bullish development is only the pullback to this, right? So what happens, right, is that we see the strike of the 50%, which is seen as a liquidity grab. Why? Because we came to 50%. Right, and instantly reacted and gave a bullish break of structure. Or I would see this as, right, I would see this as a full break of structure, but I would see this more as a disruption because we're not mitigating anything, right? So an unsupported move, right, came back to this wick, right, which incited bullish order flow. Super unfavorable per se, if that's the way that I want to put it. It's not something I genuinely wanted. But it's pretty much brought us to where we are today, because now, right, because we've essentially taken out so much liquidity, right, potentially mitigated something, right, and created almost a new high. This could now be seen as a quote-unquote liquidity grab. But my issue is, right, I'm going to go over some more of the EU bearish thing when I get to EU, but all right, let's finish this off. My issue is like, right, considering our legs, right, you can consider this a bullish leg that took out a previous structure point, right? But, right, I'm looking at the immediate leg here. Right, so that's what broke, right? So even though we might take out this structure point here, I'm still considering the fact that this could be a break of structure too, and we could just be coming back for something higher here. It makes a lot of sense, but if we were to come up here, then it's considered also a bullish break of structure, so it would essentially need something like this, and then we need an unwillingness to create, a strong leg to then play based off of. That's your more conservative play, and that's what makes a lot more sense. But outside of that bias too, you could even say, right, we have a break of structure, and this is our discount. Right, the only reason why I'm favoring bias 1 over bias 2 is just because of, the overall pro trend scenario. February 16th, same thing happened. Oh, you're talking about here? Yeah, you're talking about this. But this is a lot clearer to say because, for example, we hadn't already came back to, you know, continue bearish order flow, right? We had only continued here, right? So the cool thing here, right, was that we had a bias based off equal lows, right? Even that's not what we call a bias. It's just the issue that we didn't mitigate anything down here, creating that bullish incentive to then come to a POI. Here, it's different because we've already, quote unquote, reacted here. So it's going to be based off more, you know, a potential inefficiency or the wick there, right? So that's essentially what I'm looking at for price action and then go from there, right? Because if we get a reaction from there, for example, let's say you go like this, come into this inefficiency, come into here, and then we break this initial low, even though this full leg is still bullish, it's not like disruption of bullish order flow there. So then that would be ideal per se. And then this would be the unwillingness, right? And continuation lower. I don't want to get away from that bearish bias, even though we're so low technically from an overall perspective, just because I have no reason to fully think we're bullish yet. So just theoretically, it doesn't make sense, you know? So it would be cool to see what happens here, right? I don't think we're going to mitigate here, right? Because even though we created a quote-unquote new lower low, right? This wouldn't make much sense to me. 99% retracement, right? Impulsive move, right? So even if we see a bullish break of structure, it could still maintain itself if we have the proper catalyst, right? Because even though this is considered a bullish break of structure, you can easily find a POI for a hedge if you were to sell here, right? Because then that's how you know if your overall bias is right or if the continuation bias is right. So yeah. Right, looking at EU, right? So the weird thing here for me, 2 days ago, was it? Yeah, 2 days ago on Thursday. The weird thing for me, actually we'll go to H1. Right, it was the fact that, right, we had our structured order flow here. Structured order flow, right? But my issue, right, was the fact that we did not have strong demand supporting our upside move, right? So even though we've been fully bullish, right, it's now for me a time to try to essentially interpret a different type of bias, right? Because for example, right, we see this corrective nature, and the corrective nature started here, so I consider this an entire leg. Right, so now I'm thinking, right, what if this is now a break of structure to the downside? We have unsupported volume, and there could be a quote-unquote equilibrium or a slightly premium pricing, right? So what I did, go to the daily, right, okay, what do we see? We see a daily inefficiency, right? What do we see on H12? Right, I see an H12 wick here. Right, you see that wick that essentially took out liquidity and then continued lower. I'm going to be marketing the open because I get a confluence with the daily zone. H8, nothing. H4, nothing. I don't consider that an SC. H3, nothing. H2, nothing. Yeah, nothing. So you see how the price action is getting a lot sloppier. So I'm just going to focus more on seeing what happens inside of here from a scalp perspective. And that's where, you know, the markups then come into play. Right, because we essentially saw the essentially buying climax, but with no strong bullish volume. Right, that's automatically kind of iffy to me off the bat, but it's then important to actually notice what's happening, which is what I showed you guys in the markups. I don't want to have to go through that again. Screen frozen. Is the screen frozen? Are you sure it's not your internet connection? like let's see. Cool. So previous markups. Right. So here's what we were talking about. Right. We see the final structural range to the upside. Right here, what do we see? Turbulence point mitigated. Reaction from turbulence point, unwilling to break out a previous high. This high now takes out a previous low, and it also takes out the turbulence point, invalidating all bullish type of order flow. Right, so now this is our point of invalidation if we're theoretically trying to continue structure. Right. Let me just take this off. Okay. All right, so from there, everything's pretty self-explanatory, right? Buying climax, but I didn't see any volume there, but I did see the volume. I don't think I showed it. No, I didn't, but I did see something after this reaction. Yeah, as you can see, pretty much this upside move there, right, and there. But the thing is, the reason why I didn't want to clarify that for you is that essentially it's already, you know, late in New York, kind of, with an hour after overlap. It's not late in New York per se, but right, this type of diminishment is extremely expected, right? But more so like this, right? The overall diminishment, I do see that to be expected at this time. But the thing for me though is that we had an upside move here and we had a downside here. So that's what the instability that I use pretty much. But it overall just made sense because we had taken out the bullish order flow. Right, so from there, right, theoretically there's no possible way for the bias to continue and break that point. Right, so if you're entering, whether it's here or if you're entering here, right, it's all pretty valid. Oh shit, I'm sorry, hold on, my bad. All right, let me say that one more time. Right, so this diminishment is what I expect, right, after a quote-unquote, you know, overlap. When the volume is low, I see the overall diminishment, right? But when we saw this upside move, right, that's where you see this diminishment. Right, but that's only a confluence. Keep in mind, we're playing based off of point of interest, bullish order flow disruption, potential schematic, right? And it all essentially is derived from daily inefficiency. So let's see. So it's the same thing here, like right, because this is so impulsive, because we've taken so many structure points out, I do see this quote-unquote being collateral of the continuation movement. But now the thing is I want to see what happens if we're, you know, inside of here in a deep premium, because there is still the possibility that even though this could be a structure break, right, there is still the possibility that this could still be a structure break, right? Because I'm still considering the overall, you know, bullish structure, right? So even if we see this bearish break of structure here, right, there is a possibility that we could see any type of reaction. And where have we seen that before? We've seen something like that. Right here, right, where we saw the bullish inducement here per se, right, and we still saw those structure breaks here, but the overall leg wasn't invalidated, and we, you know, created that bullish run. All right, so it's possible. It's just certain things need to happen, like I said. Oh no, Wanda. What left equal highs? Okay, I see. That's what you mean with equal highs. Yeah, but remember, just because we have equal highs, equal lows doesn't mean they're going to come after them, right? Remember, do you remember Juan pointed out those equal lows that was my target for this, right? Remember here, right? This was left, but we still carried on bullish structure, you know? So you can't really make that a type of excuse anymore. Right, remember these are only targets if the order flow fits it. Right, these are not targets because order flow was to the upside. Yeah. So I've tried to really stop doing that. Stop trying to let liquidity be a influencer of my buys, even though it's really hard not to make it. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, for example, right, keep in mind, we still have this left over, right? We still have this left over, right? It's gonna fill. It just does. You don't know. You don't know when it's gonna happen. This, I just don't like the wicks, bro. I like to see much less wick. I like to see much more body. Like, I'd rather take a fat wick like this than 2 candles with decent sized wicks, if that makes sense. See, like this, I wouldn't consider an SC. This, I would consider an SC, like something there, but obviously that didn't react. Like, I would have wanted to see a lot less wick there. That's pretty much my only thing. I'm just being super picky with it, if I'm being honest. And then once you break down the candle, it's extremely sloppy, if anything. This would be a type of turbulence point per se. Right, but if you were to break this down, right, okay, there's a candle here. It's the same thing. I'm not going to consider this an SC yet. Right, now I would probably consider this something there, right, with that being the POI, but I don't think we reach this high, right, which is why I pretty much stuck to the higher time frame confluence and let price give me an excuse. Right, see, as you can see, it only came to the open, but then it came to the wick there. Right, so naturally, I wouldn't have gone for this body here. I would have gone for this wick. If I would have considered this to be a point of interest, but then keep in mind that point of interest is away from my daily inefficiency, and it's away from my H12 wick. So it just made a lot less sense per se. But then you could also reference that as a POI that hasn't been mitigated. Like, I would definitely consider that a POI that hasn't been mitigated. Oh, wrong button. So, hopefully, we can come back and fill that eventually. But yeah, here's the thing. I really want to see what happens here, right? If we didn't drop down so low, I would have wanted to see what happens here Monday, but yeah, I don't know. It's iffy still, super iffy. Because we haven't even taken out the target yet, have we? No, we haven't. Yeah, so it's an exciting week because we can either completely melt just due to the fact that we have an extremely bearish closure here, right? Or we could somehow try to tap, you know, a 50% in this SC, or just tap anywhere inside this H4 inefficiency that's in there, right, and give a large rejection, kind of like we saw here, and that could change the entire bias completely, right? Just because this one candle here changed the entire bullish bias completely because of where it reacted from and how fast it moved, right? So that's, you know, kind of ties into what I say with we don't have enough data to make certain assumptions. Right, so there's inefficiency there, daily 50%, somewhere around there too. I want to see what happens there. I want to see if this continues. Best case, this does continue, right? And eventually, right, pretty much fills this back up to the upside, right? Because nothing will fall forever, right? Eventually something recovers, kind of like it did here. But yeah, not much to say. I mean, GU was a weird one because we came into this, right? This is somewhere where I was pretty much alerting myself for. I wanted to see what happened from here, and there's a good case we could finally start to see a retracement here, because EU literally just did the same thing, I believe. Yeah, as you can see right there, EU just did the exact same thing, right? So obviously this is portraying a bearish narrative, and it makes a lot of sense because we can easily start to recover back to a premium of this range, right? But the thing is I don't want to completely invalidate it just yet, right? Because, for example, like I said, right, we could see the break of structure, we could see the reaction of the POI, but then if there isn't a strong recovery, right, then this will easily continue lower. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, I mean, if we're thinking about the overall picture too, this could be essentially, you know, the start of the recovery for this massive impulse and move. So yeah, who knows? All right, cool. Do we have any questions? What do you think of EG? I'm not touching EG because I'm not trying to buy it. Why are these markups still there? I swear I deleted them. What the hell? Right, it's still bearish. There's no, like, for example, you could say this is a bullish break of structure, and then you could start looking for, you know, bullish POI here and here, but it's like, I'm not trying to buy this. Why is it like, I'm gonna just stay away because I know I'm not trying to buy this, you know, especially because we have liquidity here. And the reason why I don't want to say that is because I don't want you to think, oh, I wanted to buy, and then I'm not gonna buy because Fredo said not to buy, you know. But I'm just saying I'm not gonna buy it. You could see a good bullish scenario, especially based on that reaction, right? If you look at the weekly, right, bullish, but it's like that's not enough data for me to think we're gonna start seeing bullishness. Maybe a hedge for your current sell positions, okay, that you can justify that, but it just doesn't make sense to me. Right, you can see the turbulence point there. You see another turbulence point here. But I don't know. I want to see this continue. I can't justify buying at all. But yeah, do you guys have any other questions? Where did we just react from to? Dang. Yeah. Let's see, any more questions? You guys have not been wanting to ask questions recently. Let's see, I have a question about the journals. How do you want the photos? I just don't want trading view links on it, and I've specifically said that like multiple times, and I've even written it down in the process. The assignments thing. Just don't send the link, because it just takes way too much time. If I have to do, let's say 5 to 10 journals, right? I have to now, right, instead of just reading what you have to say and just mark up whatever you say, I have to now click the link. I have to download the picture, right? I have to edit the picture, and then I have to put the picture in your journal, right? That's extremely time consuming, so I don't want to do that. So I've already put rubrics, not rubrics, I've put references, and I've said don't put trading view links, right? I'm putting, I'm doing them from my iPad, so I'm pretty sure I'd be able to see an iPad. I probably wouldn't be able to see an ultra wide image. So if you have an ultra wide, just make your window smaller, like 2/3 as much. If it gets blurred, well, if you can't read it, I probably can't read it, just being real. Thoughts on GA? I don't trade GA. And look, stop asking me. All right, from here on, all right, don't ask me what's your opinion on GA. I want you to send me what you think about GA, and then we're gonna go over whatever you think, right? Because of, you know, obviously who I am here, right, in this scenery, in this location, in this quote unquote group, right? Anything I say will influence you. So if you're asking me for an opinion on your pair and it doesn't resonate with what you're thinking, I'm gonna make you overthink, and even if you're right, you're not gonna take the trade. So you see, so psychologically, it doesn't make sense for me to, you know, critique your pairs when I don't know the tendencies, when I don't know the overall structure, right? And all that takes time, you know. So if you want an opinion on a pair, just send me what you think, and then we're gonna go over it. Like, I'm gonna be super objective. I'm not gonna disagree with you, and I'm not gonna agree with you. Right, but I just want to make sure that you're following your rules, and at the end of the day, that's where the longevity lies. So don't ask me thoughts on blah blah blah. Can you see blah blah blah? What do you think of blah blah blah? I'm not gonna do that anymore. And don't take that as me getting on your ass. Just trying to be objective. Yeah, you copied the image, not the link. I'm asking. No, I don't know. It just really depends, bro. Like, if you have like a regular size screen, I don't see why there would be an issue. But if you have an ultra wide, just cut your window to be 2/3 the size, and you should be fine. But yeah, please, any more questions? Any more questions? I tried to read out books on iPad. I use Notability, bro. I use Notability. My opinion, personally. Thumbs up. How long have you been in the group, bro? I need you to, guys. I need you to read process, please. If you aren't reading, like that question, I can automatically tell you haven't read the process since November. Okay, so what does the process say? since November. That's yeah. And also keep in mind, I'm not gonna validate your setups. So if you're gonna send me a trade idea, I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna agree or disagree with you. I mean, a lot of you already know that, but I'm just making it clear. Cool. So any more questions? First few weeks. Okay, so read your question now and then read what you just told me, and you should have your answer. Well, when it comes to finding tendencies, where do we start? Well, for one, you have to actually trade your pairs, right? I think there's a thing where I think people try to prioritize too much backtesting, right? But you have to keep in mind, right? What is backtesting? Backtesting is just practicing previous data, right? Because you're trying to figure out what rules work, right? That's the point of backtesting, right? So when you're backtesting, right, you're trying to figure out what you're trying to use, what makes sense, what works, right? But if you focus too much on backtesting, when you actually try to trade it, you're going to feel the actual psychological barriers come into play. Because, for example, right, I can practice all day. I can practice anything all day, whether it's a sport, whether it's trading, whether it's anything, right? But you cannot practice the raw emotion that you feel while you're trading, while you're playing a sport, etc., right? You don't experience that true management, that that fatigue mid game. You don't experience that that intimidation of taking the execution, the intimidation of playing a really good team or whatever. So stress testing is just as important as back testing, right? And as you're stress testing, you're gonna start noticing patterns, right? You're gonna start seeing whether POIs become invalidated, whether POIs are essentially reacted in a certain way. Some might react normally from the open 50%. Some might take out the POI, then mitigate that, and then continue the favorite direction. So you have to look at every single detail you can possibly think of. What pair to trade, when to trade, how it moves, structure-wise, POI-wise, reaction-wise, management-wise, right? Do you get deep retracements? Do you get small retracements? Every single detail. Right? That's why there is no true way to go about it, but you have to essentially figure out every single detail. And it's something that continuously is changing, because obviously market conditions are obviously always changing. Because what you want to do is not necessarily be able to predict every single move because you now know how the pair moves. You just want to be able to take realistic trades based on the experience of knowing every single detail. And that's how you can justify positions and become a lot more comfortable, per se. Yeah, bro. Just you have to focus on every single detail. There is no true way to go about it. And that's what I'm gonna state in the video when I make it anyway. That's in phase 5. And as for that, I'm hoping to finish. My best case is I finish by my spring break, which my spring break, let me take out my planner. My spring break ends the 19th of the month. So that should be more than enough time for me to finish it. But anyways, do you guys have any more questions? Awesome, bro. I know you've been working hard, bro. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Cool. So hopefully by the end of the month, we should be able to start one-on-ones too. I probably won't be doing many because they're going to be super draining. Like I could already feel it, but you know. Anyways, I'll see you guys on Tuesday.